Only a quorum, which is 7.
Are you should we count?
You do not need to count. So this meeting is going to come to order. I'm your moderator, Phoebe Walker. There's plenty of room up here. And you elect me to make sure these meetings are productive, polite, and conducted according to our rules. Town meeting time. It's November 27th, 2023. The warrant shows that it was properly served. And this is an open town meeting, so all Buckland residents are encouraged to participate. The bathroom is out that way. Thank you, Dana McNay from Falls Cable, for helping us out tonight. You all need the handout that you got at when you checked in. You have it? Because we're not going to read that whole bylaw thing to you. Okay, great. We've got a couple rules to follow to make sure this meeting goes well. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and wait until I call on you. And when I do, say your name and street every time. It often happens in the special town meeting. It feels much more cozy here and less formal than at Mohawk. Then we get into these lengthy backs and forths. That's not okay. It makes people feel anxious that the thing is getting out of control. So you don't speak if I don't call on you, okay? The bylaws limit you to 10 minutes of speaking, but boy, am I going to get frustrated if you go even anywhere close to 10. So please don't do that. You don't want that. And then I can make exceptions for reports, like we will hear a little bit more in depth from the planning board when a committee is bringing a particular thing. That's not the same as, just a resident talking. So, rule number 2, keep your comments and questions relevant to the article at hand. Number 3, please be polite and factual. Number 4, our bylaws say that you can speak twice, but not again until anybody else who wants to talk on that article has spoken. So please save up all your things you want to say and raise your hand once. If you're planning to amend something here, I need that in writing. As soon as you are raising your hand to say, I offer an amendment, okay? Rule number 6, please be patient with your neighbors. We only do this a couple times a year. Some of you are old hats at it and know how to do it, and some of you don't come here up frequently, and that's okay. You all have the same rights here, okay? So we want everyone to understand what they're voting on and how the process works. Do not move a question while people are still discussing it. And as of last year's town meeting vote, paper ballots are now subject to the vote of the meeting and can only be held if a majority approves. So those are your rules. Let's talk about who's up here. Oh, they all have names. Okay. Can you all see their names, or do you want me to say who they are? What? Yes, you can? Okay, then I'm not going to read off all the names, but you've got here our town administrator, our select board, our finance committee, and our planning board, and our town clerk. Okay, we have a couple outsiders, and the way town meeting works is only people who live here can vote, right? But we often will have people joining us who are not Buckland voters who might have something to say or be someone we want to hear from. So right now we do have 2 people. So there's a non-voter section over here, guests, and we've got a Buckland landowner who's not a voter here who might want to say something, and then we've got that's Jeremy Coleman, and then we have Allison Gage, who's a planner from the FERCOG, who's been working with the planning board. Do you all say aye if you agree that we can hear from them if we want to?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're not reading the super long articles because you've got the paper. We're going to have a motion and then a second, and then we're going to discuss it. And if we get bogged down in procedural questions, we'll check the book. Okay? All right, let's get started. First, we're going to go to Article 1, so find that in your handout. This one is about money.
Ms. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I move that the town transfer $62,500 from free cash to reduce the fiscal year 24 tax rate.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions about this? Could the Finance Committee just quickly describe why we're doing this? Mr. Langford. Be a little louder, Larry, please.
We enabled the town to end the fiscal year with a balanced budget. And as happens every year, we ended up having to pay some bills for services that were rendered in previous fiscal year. So that's the case here. So rather than raise the money on taxes, we thought we would use free cash.
Okay.
Increase taxes.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your card. Oops, I don't vote. Put a card in front of me and I get... Okay, all those opposed? Okay, the article passes unanimously. We are moving on to Article 2 about a roof at the wastewater treatment facility.
Ms. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to fund the repair and replacement, including all incidental and related costs and expenses of the roof at the Shelburne Falls wastewater treatment facility in enterprise fund, for which $40,000 will be appropriated from anticipated receipts from the Buckland user assessment as a line item appropriation, and from anticipated receipts from the town of Shelburne pursuant to the operations agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. I will just remind people, as I do every time we vote on anything for the wastewater treatment plant, that if you are not on town sewer, you are not paying this money. Does anyone wish to have any questions about the roof project? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your card. Okey dokey. You can put it down. All those opposed? The article passes unanimously. And we are moving on to Article 3 about the former police station.
Ms. Moderator.
Mr. Phillips.
I move that the town vote to transfer the care, custody, management, and control of the real property and structures thereon located at 69.5 Conway Street, the former Buckland Police Station, from the such other officer or board having custody of the such property for such purposes as is currently held to the select board for the purpose of disposition by lease, sale, or otherwise, and that such disposition be conducted in accordance with the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, and further to authorize the select board to take any and all related actions necessary or appropriate to carry out the purpose of this article.
I second all the suches.
I was just going to say, that's 4 suches. That's pretty, that's some legalese. Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded, and I would call on our town administrator to just give us the quick answer of why we're voting on this tonight.
Well, the number one question that I've heard the most from residents is, does this mean that they're going to sell the police station tomorrow? That is not what this article means. This article is transferring the authority to the select board so that they can begin the process of talking with potential buyers and those who have come forward. There's still a very public process that has to happen. Chapter 30B is your procurement Mass General Law, and that states that the select board cannot sell a parcel of property without going through a request for proposals, which is an advertised bid. So it's a very public process. Everybody that, has the opportunity to participate in the process certainly can, and it does not limit the use. It does not limit the board to engage and have conversations with various parties, and they are committed to a full listening session. They've indicated that they would like to have several public meetings, at which time we'll gather sort of in a similar capacity as you are now, but just specifically talking about what you as a community envision at that location. So just to recap, this authorizes the select board to begin the process of selling that property, but it does not mean that they have to sell it. It does not mean that they will sell it. It just means that they can begin talking about selling it. So.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions about giving the selectmen the authority to begin discussions with people about?
I'll give you a town parcel, 117 Elm Street. How does the town acquire this property in the first place?
Okay. Who would like to answer that?
It was acquired, I believe, in the middle 80s.
No, much later. Let's ask Mr. Dean.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Dean, former town administrator.
Yes, former town administrator. When we renovated this building, we had to move, I used to be the town administrator. So I was town administrator at the time when we purchased this building. And we needed a place to move everybody out of this building into. That building was available at the time, so the town meeting approved that we purchase it. This was probably in 2004, 3?
I'm looking it up right now, 2004.
2004. So we moved everybody down there, a little bit of renovation, we moved everybody down there. This building was renovated to the point it's at today. And then when this building was ready, we moved everybody but the police station back up here.
Thank you. The question is, how much does the town have invested in it?
That-
I don't remember that.
I can look up the purchase and sale.
$100 million,
The only-
I thought.
Since I've been here in 2019, the only physical investment that we've put into that building is we added some ductwork to add a little bit of airflow to that building to the tune of maybe $2,500, $3,000. That was in 2021. And then we've done some minor repairs and painting to make the building a little bit more hospitable for our current tenant, which is the health service. So maybe $1,000. The upkeep, we're paying to heat it. We pay for an internet service there, and obviously the electricity to keep the lights on. But it's a fairly, with the exception of the cost of keeping it warm, has been a nominal cost. No major capital investments.
Heather, I'm sorry, sir, I want to make sure that other people get a chance because you've asked the two questions. So I just want to check that anyone else has questions because, like I said, the bylaws say if anyone else has a question. And I just want to make sure, Heather, that you're looking up the price. My
am.
memory is $250,000, but I might be wrong. Does anyone else have questions? Yes, Ms. Parr.
Paul Until 17 South Cemetery Road. I'd like to ask the select board what the process will be once they get this approval, if they get this approval, excuse me. How are they carrying on the thinking about what to do with the building?
Who from the select board would like to answer that?
So I believe our first step would be to probably have an open meeting with residents to see what interest there is. We do have, I believe there's outside interest in purchasing the property as well. This would give us the opportunity, though, to really just, as Phoebe was saying, to be able to start this process and figure out where we should be turning as a town to go with that building.
When you are meeting with prospective buyers, will that be an agenda item on a publicly posted select board agenda? Like if a person was watching your agendas and it will say appointment with
Yes.
Joe's Car Repair to buy the place, to discuss.
Yes.
Okay, so we can also follow it that way, correct? Okay.
Clarification.
Yes.
So there'll be a meeting first, though, with the community to see if the community has any interest that maybe not selling the building, to do something else with the building.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm
sorry. Yes, Ms. Butler?
The reason that this is coming up now, and this opportunity, is because the select board has been approached by two individual entities who have been interested in purchasing it. And the select board can't even begin to have those conversations with either of these parties until they have the authorization to do so by this board, by this town meeting. So again, nothing is moving forward until you all give them the authority to do so. But the only reason that they're asking is because two other groups have come forward and said, hey, we like that building, what do you think? And they can't even say what they think until you tell them they can.
Did you look up the cost of the building?
I am.
Okay, all right, it's okay, sorry, just checking. Are there any other questions while she's looking that up? Yes, sir.
What was the purpose of the building? What was it built for in the first place?
It's a power company.
Yes, New England Power.
repeat the
The question was, what was the building originally? And it was a power company building.
We know the power company used that as its headquarters.
Well, you know, every power company's been bought by every other power company now, so there's somebody from the past. All right, other questions? Mr. Parsons, did you have other questions? It looks like, yes.
You have an assessment on that building?
So we were looking for the number, the cost we paid for it, and the current assessment.
So the sale price was $225,000. And we have the assessed value at $421,400. The most recent appraisal that was done in 2019 put it at $293,000. So obviously, the market has changed. We all know, right? Everybody here can nod along with that, from 2019 till today, but that's where we stand with it.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Blum.
Karen Blum, 14 Upper Street. How much land is with the parcel?
The question is how much land is with the parcel?
Just about a half an acre. 0.5964. Now I'm ready. Go.
You know, nothing can stop her once she gets going. Yes, Ms. Sorensen.
I still think that's a good idea.
Can you guys stand up when you ask your question, because it's hard for people to hear you? Sorry.
Does the structure have access to the back area? Like where is the half, you said a half acre?
It's parking out back. Yeah, you can go in the back, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Ms. Alcaz.
Ariel Alcaz, 44 Green Street. If there's a profit made, where would that be put?
Who would like to answer that question?
I didn't hear
Someone?
the question.
Yes.
What was it?
Well, the question was if the town, well, there's no mortgage, right? So there is definitely only a profit to be made, and the question is, where does the money go if we sell the building?
To the general fund.
To the general fund.
And then when you have your next annual town meeting, you would appropriate those funds. You know, the select board and the finance committee would have their regular budget process and determine what the best use of those funds are, whether it goes to stabilization or there's a project that the community would like to pursue. You all would vote that appropriation at your next town meeting.
Thank you. Okay, are we, oh, yes, Mr. Parsons.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking these questions is that I've seen so many towns have a piece of real estate and they end up giving it away for no reason to give it away when they should be selling it and at least get a fair price for it.
Would the select board like to speak to, I mean, my understanding is you're considering selling it, correct? I mean, you would consider selling it if we gave you the authority?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be,
It's a fair price for the property.
Understood, okay.
The other thing is, if you still got internet connected to it, you should shut it off. Since nobody's there.
Right. Thank you. Okay, I understand now what you're talking about. Okay.
So there would be an appraisal process. Obviously, we would get an updated appraisal. That would be part of the next steps, so that the board would know what their position is, what their...
I think what may be confusing people is that initially people probably saw the warrant article and assumed that you had people interested in buying it. And now you're talking about having a public meeting where we might say we want it to be a pottery place, or, you know, we want it to be a community center or a daycare or something like that, right? So that might be part of what the confusion is. But it sounds like you're saying either way, we're going to have a public meeting where we're going to brainstorm ideas for it, and that may or may not include information about potential buyers or other uses.
So I think that the board's next step, in addition to having a listening session, is to hear from the community whether or not a future reuse of this building. Okay, so say hypothetically there is a decision to move forward with a sale. You would have two two tracks that you would want to discuss. One, which would be basically profit-driven. You would look at it as we would issue an advertised bid, which is, a sealed bid that goes into the newspaper, and people would bid, and the board would look at that as a bottom line number, highest bid. Who wants to give the most money for this parcel? The other way to go would be to look at what types of uses does the community want? Is there a service that could be provided from that location that better benefits the community as a whole versus the most amount of money that you can get for the sale of the property? So that's what the decision is in front of the community, but the select board would lead that conversation with this vote to authorize. Again, lots of conversations still to be had. They just can't be had until they are authorized to do so. And I do think you have some really unique opportunities. And maybe the opportunity isn't to sell it, but you kind of have to have these conversations first before you can make that decision.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Alcos.
Mariel Alcaz, 44 Green. So if we were to approve this, we would be able to, as a town, then vote whether it would be used for something particular. Like, I know senior care is a big thing that we're dealing with right now, and we just don't have buildings for it. So would we be able to have a vote that maybe it could be a senior care facility, or could it be?
I just want to clarify that we wouldn't be voting, I don't think. We'd be having like an open hearing where we'd be discussing things, but
Okay, yeah.
but we wouldn't be having this kind of a vote about what happens to
So
it.
the select board would have full power to do whatever they decide is right.
Right, but they're also up here telling us that they want to hear from us. Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, Mr. Warner.
Richard Warner, Indianapolis Street. I'm a family practitioner who's been in sole family practice here for 31 years, and I will be 75 years of age next year, and I'm starting to think seriously about retirement.
No.
We have a practice dentist in Shelburne Falls, Jim Collins, on the children's side. He's in his mid-60s, and I have many conversations with him about retirement, but I don't expect him to go on for too much longer himself. I've been working informally with the health center in Greenfield for the last 2 years, looking for a site in this area to set up a satellite clinic with at least 2 medical providers and a dentist. We have considered many other physical facilities, and right now we're down to one last possibility, which is this former police building. So I would put in a plug not only for freeing this up for the select board to make a decision, but also make a plug to seriously consider this as a site for a satellite for the community health center.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who wants to speak before we vote? Okay. All those in favor of authorizing the select board to begin these conversations, raise your card. Okay, you can put it down. All those opposed? Okay, the article passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we move on to some planning board things. Mr. Gould.
Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the Buckland zoning bylaw, Section 8, General Regulations, subsection 8-4, Other Regulations, as written in the warrant above, with new language to be inserted as shown in bold and deleted language as shown in strike-through.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, and you all are looking at the Article 4 language. Would someone from the planning board like to briefly describe why you're bringing this change?
Sure. As you can see, the only change is to remove the word consecutive and replace it with in any 12-month period for the 60 days that the bylaw contemplates a trailer being used for. And this is simply to head off what has been taking place, basically, that people just move away for a day and then come back and re-up their 60 days. It's not that anybody's not wanting to take away people's opportunity to live in an RV, but that is not housing, and it's being used as housing. And it's, there are health concerns, there's neighborhood concerns, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the only change that's being proposed here. If a longer period of time is needed, as you can see in the text, if there's actually a flood or a fire or something like that, or if someone's building a house and they need the time to live in that RV so that they can get their house built, that's allowed. And it's not a hard number in any case, because if someone can see, or it turns out that some have to have a longer period of living in the RV, they can come and get a special permit to do so from the ZBA. So there is still an opportunity to extend that number.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Carmela Lanzawile, 31 School Street. I'm just curious about the trailer homes that I see about town that have been there for some time. Are they grandfathered in?
Well, as far as I understand, they may not currently be legal if they have been there for a long time, but that's really a question by a particular house for the building inspector, for him to determine their legality or not.
Oh, okay, so that's how that works.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Parsons.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Mr. Hoban?
Well, just to clarify that question, I think there's a distinction, just be clear, there's a distinction between a mobile home and a trailer, right?
It says mobile home in the, it says trailer or mobile home. So that's,
The following sentence clarifies that: a trailer designed for camping, recreational, or business purposes.
it says right there. I was just reading the second paragraph that said a trailer or mobile home may be placed by the owner if they're building a house or whatever. So that's a different kind of mobile home.
Well, I was just trying to draw a distinction between a home that has wheels on it and like a modular, in case that was what you had in mind.
Oh.
Right, because this doesn't affect that.
Yeah, it needs to be...
in other words, a house that might have been transported on a road to get to a site isn't automatically considered a trailer or a mobile home. It doesn't, we're talking about homes that have, rolling homes that are used for camping that have wheels on
That are
them.
supposed to go behind a car or a truck.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Thank
what we
you.
have in mind. Thanks.
That wasn't clear to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lanzawile.
Well, now I'm confused, Michael. I looked up the ZBA bylaw, and it defines a mobile home as a home manufactured elsewhere that has a chassis, and it was transported to the site. This does affect those kinds of mobile homes, correct? I mean, the change doesn't, but that's what's referred to here, where it says no trailer or mobile home.
John? I'm not on ZBA, so I want to make sure the ZBA person is addressing your question.
Oh, your question was as a ZBA interpretation?
No. I was concerned that there was no definition of trailer or mobile home in this. So I looked up those definitions in not the general bylaw, but the planning and zoning bylaw. And so trailer has a specific definition, and mobile home has a specific definition. I realize those definitions aren't being questioned by this motion. This motion is clarifying the loophole. I'm in favor.
Sometimes if someone has something like this to say, they can also propose an amendment to strike the word mobile home.
I'm not promoting an amendment.
Okay.
I was confused by what you said, Michael, about how this refers only to vehicles with wheels that are transported to a site.
Right.
Mobile home is defined, I'll just say it to level grip. Mobile home is defined in the bylaws as a structure manufactured elsewhere that it has a chassis and is placed for permanent residence on a building site.
Okay. So I'm hearing that there's some confusion because of the term mobile home, because we all have neighbors who live in mobile homes, homes that were once mobile and now are on a foundation and stay there. And there seems to be people questioning this. Behind you had their hand up. Yes, go ahead. Yeah?
Doris Schroed, Asheville Street. I'm familiar with the tiny home movement, so I'm concerned about those who are interested in doing a tiny house somewhere. Is it affecting them, their options to actually create that for themselves?
Okay, who wants to answer that?
Currently, a tiny house is not an option in Buckland. It doesn't fit the definitions. There's some objections by the Board of Health because they are, those are the Board of Health objections. I'm not going to speak for them, but...
I want to be clear, though, Mr. Gould, you're talking about a mobile tiny home.
Yeah,
There's nothing...
But tiny houses are not available to Buckland right now, okay, in the current bylaws as enforced by the building inspector. So this won't affect it because they're not in the game. I did want to go back to pointing out the third paragraph about the mobile home business. It may be placed by the owner, again, in case of a fire or natural holocaust, a trailer or a mobile home. Mobile home it needs a clarification. But the idea is really, as Michael described it, it's something that's supposed to be a temporary vehicle or drawn behind a vehicle and not a permanent installation.
Ms. Sorensen?
Sorensen, 19 Depot Road. I think the confusion is that the chassis, sometimes people take the wheels off the vehicle. And so that's why it's defined as with a chassis rather than with wheels, because the chassis is what holds the wheels on the structure and makes it go whole. But if you take the wheels off, and you still have a chassis.
I'm sensing some confusion here, so I feel like there needs to be some clarity about what kind of thing we're voting on here. Maybe this person has an idea. Yes, sir.
Hi, Bill Meyer, 9 Summer Street, and basically I was in RVs for 20 years, and an RV is self-contained, and it can be moved out of it. The mobile home goes in, and they set it up, and they plumb it, and they run gas to it, and hook electricity to it. So a motorhome trailer is the same thing as an RV, but a mobile home is more permanent.
I think you've put your finger on it. It's the word motor home that should be here, not mobile home. Maybe. Yeah. One sec. Yes, Ms. Schlode?
So I bought a pop-up tent. So if I wanted to keep it up all summer long.
And live in it. If it were your only place of living, you would have 60 days to do it.
But you could keep it up. I mean, I'm not going to do that here, but.
You could keep it up, you just can't live in it.
Yeah.
For more than 60 days.
This affects,
Permanent residence.
Right.
yeah.
It's not safe.
So what we're voting on.
Raise your hand. All right, everybody, come on, calm down. Raise your hand. Yes, Ms. Consolo?
Cemetery, what we're voting on actually is to change the word consecutive to in any 12-month period. That's
correct.
Thank you.
This is good or anything. We're voting on just that small change. And it's because, if my understanding is, it's because people have been kind of avoiding the real,
The spirit.
The issue.
Yeah. Not abiding by the spirit, so we want to close that. People aren't in the spirit of what this is meant to do, so we're just making it clearer what the rules are.
Thank you.
That's helpful. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Gould?
Yes, I guess I would question if we went to dissect the meaning of any other part of this bylaw, that it's not germane, because that's not what is being proposed here. We're not proposing.
I agree. Yeah,
Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
I agree. I think we've gone too far down the road of trying to talk. I think that the planning board is sitting here in front of us, they hear that we're confused by their thing, they'll work on it, we're going to have them back in any way in front of town meeting, so we can say to you, please clarify mobile home in the future, and what we will vote on tonight is this one change. There's somebody else with their hand up. Mr. Coleman is the person from Shelburne who owns the land in Buckland, who previously you allowed to hear from. Yes?
Hi, Jeremy Coleman. I own property at 23 Charbon Road, and we live in Roseville. And question, well, first I have a comment, which is just constructively non-germane, but there's a motor home, particularly something which, it's a vehicle, self-contained. You get into the driver's seat and drive, and then there's a trailer which is pulled. Seems to me that there's some equivalent, but only one of them is addressed in the bylaws.
Okay, but we're not talking any more about the words.
But, so, I guess I have a question. The question is, what would be the definition of living purposes? For instance, if one lived at a permanent residence in town, also on a piece of property which was not developed, where one would pull an RV and park it there, a registered RV, which can park on the property, and then come up there occasionally. Come up there in the evening, have dinner, sleep there occasionally, but nonetheless, the primary residence is elsewhere. I'm wondering how that would be viewed, not in terms of the change in the bylaw, but in the bylaw as it stands, or as it is amended. So, thank you.
Mr. Gould.
That would be a matter for the enforcement officer. That would be the building inspector. And any sophisticated interpretations of whether you are living in the thing or only visiting would need to meet with his approval.
But when we mean living, we assume the common sense interpretation is not having supper and then going home and sleeping somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But he is the agent for interpreting the bylaws for the town, and if there comes any further complications or questions, then it goes to the zoning board of appeals, and then to circuit court or whatever.
I think we've clarified that we were unclear. I think we've clarified that we were spending a little too much time talking about something that we're not actually able to vote about right now. So we hope that you hear us, that we would like more clarity here. But the thing that we are voting on today is just the change from 60 consecutive days to 60 days in any 12-month period. Ms. Sorensen?
To change mobile home to motor home.
I don't think you can make a friendly amendment right now. Well, there's no friendly amendments in town meeting, but you can't make an amendment because this has already gone to the lawyers. It's already had a public hearing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it has, and again, that's not the item in question, the motor home versus mobile home.
Well, I think the larger question is if we change this and there's no definition section in the zoning bylaws that says that the difference, we haven't actually fixed it. We'd have to have the whole zoning bylaws in front of us. We'd have to have the definition section open. We'd have to say, I wish to amend. You would write out, I want to amend the definition, section 6, add motor home, which I don't think any of us wants to do tonight. So I would, but you are a free agent in this community and are welcome to submit a written amendment if you wish. Okay. I will defend your right to do it. Okay. All right, people, I think we're going to vote on this one, okay? So just to be clear, what we're voting on is just how we count the 60 days, that they are not 60 days in a row, they are 60 days in a year. Okay. All those in favor of the change proposed here, please raise your card. Okay, you can put them down. All those opposed? Okay, the article passes. It is not unanimous.
That needed to be a two-thirds.
Okay. I also think that the conversation about tiny homes may have confused some people. You can build an accessory dwelling unit that is a tiny home in this town. You're more than welcome to. You guys have done a lot of work to make that possible. What you can't currently do is make a tiny house on wheels and move it around the town and live in it. Okay, just wanted to make sure that's clear. Okay. I think we have to move on, but I'm happy to answer it, or so is the planning board afterwards. Okay, Article 5 is also a planning board zoning bylaw change.
Ms. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the Buckland zoning bylaw by deleting Section 7, floodplain overlay district, in its entirety and inserting in its place the following new section that's actually not following the previous to this language here. Section 7, floodplain overlay district, language as written in the warrant above. And I also ask that our guest from FERCog, Allison Gage, be given an opportunity to explain this change.
Okay, we're going to start off with her giving the presentation about why we're doing this?
Sure.
Okay, okay. Ms. Gage? Can you stand up and be loud?
Wait a minute, you need a moderator, you need a second.
Oh, sorry. Is anyone seconding it?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so this came about because the state found that the majority of the communities who had adopted a floodplain district, their zoning bylaws did not actually meet the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. So they came up with a model that streamlines it, that guarantees that you will meet the requirements of the NFP, so that any flooding occurs, and if you need to apply for the government, you will be allowed to do so. So that's what the is saying.
Okay, one second. So, oh, this isn't a real microphone. What she's saying is that the many communities were found who had previously adopted a long time ago their floodplain bylaws were out of sync with the federal flood insurance program. So that if there was a flood and you live along the river and you claim, you have a claim, an insurance claim, you wouldn't be able to do that because the town did not have the appropriate zoning bylaw having to do with the floodplain.
So your actual map floodplain is not changing. Your floodplain from 1980 is still your floodplain. The main changes in this is that you now will have an administrator, Heather, so she will be the keeper of the map, and if there are any questions that arise, she can help coordinate amongst the appropriate personnel. So that's really all it is. It's just making sure that we're
So the borders of the floodplain are not changing, and no one's house is suddenly subject to something that it previously wasn't? Okay. Are there any other questions? We've had a flood or two in this town, so it's good to know that we're... okay, all those in favor, please raise your card. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, the article passes unanimously. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to dissolve the special town meeting. Anyone? Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, see you in May, if not before.